right, so it's 10:30. So good morning. My name is Rebecca. I believe I've met some of you already in the children's department. I'm your moderator today for this panel. At the beginning of this panel, I'll ask the authors questions for about 20 minutes, and then I will open it to all of you. So prepare. Without further ado, thank you for coming to our first ever children's panel at the Eckhart Public Library. Our panelists today are Kiaya, Lou Ann, and Allie. Lou Ann is a writer, a teacher, a storyteller, and a lover of small towns. She is currently a professor at Shrine University, and in 2017, she was awarded the Outstanding Adjunct Teacher Award. She's also told stories at multiple French festival stages throughout the Midwest. Lou Ann loves to travel and bring her listeners a plethora of stories. Kiaya, who received her MS in Human Development and Family Studies from Indiana State, is the proud author of a title, Blue Bullet Rides in Mommy's Mustang, inspired by her best friend, Bullet, who's in the audience today, and helping her on the panel, the Blue Great Dane. Kiaya has also written 19 more books, coming to you soon. Book 2 especially comes this spring. Alexandria is our debut children's author and early childhood educator. She aims to create books that offer opportunities for connection between children and their caregivers, fostering an early love of reading and literacy. Her picture book, Mommy's Super Secret, honors working moms and medical professions everywhere. Now, sadly, there's so much more I could say about these authors. They've accomplished so much, but that will take probably the entire panel. So, if you have a program for today, there is a QR code in there that you are able to access, and you'll get the full bio for these authors. So, I guess we'll just go straight into the questions. Get started, so that way we have time for audience questions.
Okay.
All right, so this first question will be to all of you. Why children's author? Like, what made you want to be an author? Children's author specifically.
Okay, good question. Do you want me to have that? Okay, so my whole life, have you guys ever heard of the dog whisperer? So I'm kind of a dog whisperer, but I'm also a children's whisperer. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I get it from my mama, which is over there in the audience. Children are just kind of drawn to us. Everywhere we go, the children just kind of come to us, and we're total strangers. So luckily, they're lucky enough that we're nice. But between children and dogs in general, I have passions for both of them. There is nothing better than having that feeling that you made an impact on a little one's life through your books, through your words, through your music. I do music with my books as well. So basically, my husband decided he wanted to get a Great Dane. So by the time I picked Bullet up and his paw set in my hand, a rather big paw set in my hand, the stories just kept flooding out. And that's the moment I realized, wow, like my brain just comes up with all these stories. And if you guys know, dogs are pretty funny, right? Well, Great Danes, they kind of have to grow into their paws per se. So every month they grow, and grow, and that's a story in itself. So everything we did, it just came natural to me. So I took it as God's way of saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to do in life. So I started writing it down. My husband provided me with the tools I needed, and I made it happen. And I was blessed to get my first publishing company, and yeah, so I can't see me doing anything else. Children and dogs.
Okay, should I take it? All right, we'll just take out the dog part. So just do the children part here. Hi, everybody. It's so nice that you're here. It's hard to disconnect and just have children. I write for children, adults, etc., etc. Because my first love is storytelling. That's what I do first of all. So I think for stories for children came as a storyteller. I'm working with kids in gyms and schools and festivals all over. And sometimes there's just not the right story that I can find. It's harder than you think to find stories. A lot of stories They're still in copyright. You have to be really careful what you do. I have to always get permission from the authors. I never just tell a story or a book that I don't have the permission. So when I write my own stories, when I write my own work for children, there's no copyright except mine, and I can really relate to it. I have 3 children of my own that are all grown up, and I told them stories, of course, as most of you have done with your children, as they grow up. So a lot of my stories have come from those tales. We lived on a farm, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have plumbing, I had 3 little preschoolers, and I have oodles and oodles of those kind of stories that I tell, and I love to tell those stories to children and grown-ups as well because they're fascinated by it. But I think because I love to talk and I love to tell stories, sometimes kids, I'll go back to a school and they'll say, hey, will you, storyteller lady, will you tell that one story you told? And it's like, well, which one did I tell? This one. No. You know that one? No, I don't know. The one about the possum. Oh, yeah, I made it up on the fly because the principal said you have 5 minutes and the kids aren't going back to their class. And if you're a teacher or a principal, you're not letting that storyteller go. She's got 5 minutes and our teachers have planned it. So that's how a lot of stories come to be for me. Like, okay, I have 5 minutes. I'll make something up quickly and there's a story for you. So that's how that works for me. Here you go. Ellie?
I was a professional nanny for about 10 years, and story time was always my favorite part of the day with the kids. And I also saw the firsthand benefits of instilling early love of reading and literacy, and how that can benefit their education throughout their entire life. So I just wanted to create some books that they could connect to and learn to love reading. So.
Cool. All great and awesome answers. Okay, let's see. Trying to think of a hard question. Well, speaking of hard, what's the hardest part of the writing process for each of you? We'll just go.
I think the ending is the hardest part for me, and I'm quite the perfectionist, so knowing when to stop editing and just say, the story is done. So.
Okay, well, that's great. A lot of my work is commissioned work, and it's the same thing. I have to write all my pieces out before I tell them. They're not ready for book, that would come later, but they're ready for telling. I think the hardest part of being a writer in any way, working on my storytelling, working on regular stories, is that it's a lonely job. You are alone in your studio, and that's that. And I think that is, when I have a whole day of writing, and you have dogs, so you're fine. You don't have to worry about it.
I long for that.
I live by myself, so when I know that I have a long day of just writing and just working on that craft, I know that I have to make plans in the evening to see people, to talk about it, because it's a long day when you do that. I don't know if you feel like that, but it's that part is hard for me.
So, Allie, right?
Yep.
She took the words right from my mouth. I never know when to end the story. With my books, at the end of each story, it kind of goes into the next story. And so it's like, okay, I start out with like 10 pages to 25 pages. And then I'm like, Mama, can you read this? You know what I mean? So it's like I start out with all these pages and I have to condense them within like a 24, 25 page range. I try not to go with my children's books over 25 pages. So the ending's definitely for me, especially with these characters. My other one's in the back, but yeah, I'd have to agree with Allie on that one.
Let's see, what else do I have for you guys? Lou Ann, according to your bio, you're a professional storyteller. How does your career as a storyteller influence your writing process?
Yeah. Well, where's this young man over there in the blue sweatshirt. We were talking about that this morning. I'll just briefly talk about that. I am a professional storyteller and a writer, and they're two complete different art forms. They really are. So you tell a story, and then the stories I have downstairs are collections of stories that had to go to print. Putting something from oral tradition to print is really difficult. It takes a lot of work. If you just, I'll tell a story. Let's tell, once upon a time, far away, blah, blah, blah. I tell you a story, and we're taping it over there, right? And he says, I think I'll print off Lou Ann's story. it would be so flat. It would be so bad. So when you take oral tradition and then you have to put it to print, it's really a complete different process. It's a different art form. I think a lot of people don't realize that. You just, you make up a story, great, just go write it down. It doesn't work like that, because when you tell a story, you have eyes and, gestures and all of that, your voice. And when you read it, you have to put your own into it. So it does change it quite a bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Kaya, you've gone on
Yes.
multiple tours promoting your book.
Yes, I have.
What would you say is your favorite question from your readers?
I knew you were going to ask me. Okay, so I've gone to about 25 schools, and the questions are hilarious. So I will tell you maybe a funny one, and then I'm going to tell you my most memorable one, because it's very emotional for me. But the funniest one, so Axel, okay, so this is Bullet. He's going to be 10 years old, so he's basically 70 years old in human years. So I had to end up taking Axel to the second part of my book tours. So there was a fly flying around us, I guess, while I'm in front of this entire school. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Axel's just like looking around, like trying to like eat it. Well, all of a sudden, one little giggle turned into two, and two giggles turned into laughter. And then all of a sudden, the entire school of probably about 500 to 800 kids were laughing. It was K through 5th grade. So here's my dog trying to catch this fly. Well, I made the joke because, as you guys know, as children's book authors, usually the funniest stories and the silliest funnies, those are the best ones. Right. So I was trying to explain to the students that, when you write, you can write about whatever you want. And then it just so happened, well, this is Bullet, but Axel was trying to eat the fly, right? So I was like, take Axel, for instance. He just tried to eat the fly. And then everyone starts laughing. And I go, so technically, he's a frog dog. So they start laughing. And so I told a story about a frog dog. Well, there was this one little kid that was in the front row. And his wheels were just turning the entire time. And I did a whipped cream eating contest with the dogs and the kids. So it took probably about a good 15 minutes. So this kid was just sitting there. When it became question and answer time, he had to have been in kindergarten. He was very young. He raised his hand. I was like, yes, buddy. And he goes, what's a frog dog? Why is Axel a frog dog? Like, he could not grasp the concept of this big dog being a frog. So I had to explain, well, there was a fly. The most memorable one was there was this little girl that she was deaf. Or not deaf, she was blind, excuse me. She was blind. So I wanted her to be able to experience how big the dog was. So her teacher, her and I, we stepped to the corner in like a little room, and it was just amazing the questions this blind little girl asked, and she was just petting him, and we're like, see how soft he is, see how big he is. So I like to tell that story because that is my favorite story. That was just a very touching moment. So that was very rewarding. So we've got some funny and we've got some emotions going on there of all kinds. So yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Is it okay? Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's not my turn, but I just want to throw something in. Sorry about that. But because I mostly do oral traditional storytelling for children, this is the saddest thing that ever happened to me. And I've had, multiple schools for many, many years. Mm-hmm. I think the beauty of storytelling is that you look at people and you connect not just with words, but with their heart, their soul, when you tell these stories. And at the end of one assembly, one little girl, probably kindergarten, her class was going ahead, her teacher's calling her, but she's not going. She's going to talk to me. She tugs on my jacket and she says to me, will you be my mother?
Oh.
And wow, right? So later I talked to her teacher about that, and she said, what did, the little Sally say to you? And I told her, she says, well, she's going through some really hard times right now, and she just connected with you. Connected because here we are. she's felt probably she's the only one in the audience. And I'm looking at her, and I'm not on my phone, and I'm, addressing children, and she was sincere when she said that. I didn't take her home with me, just FYI. I mean, in case you're wondering, I didn't end up with a daughter. But it was one of the sweetest, and that's where you say there's this power in words, in books, in stories. It's so powerful. I wish this room was full of parents, just full, who could hear this, how important it is to tell stories and read books to children. Do you want to add anything to that? No. Okay.
Don't worry, Allie, I do have a question for you, so we'll be answering something. All right, so Mommy's Super Secret, super cute book, by the way. When the urge to write Mommy's Super Secret emerged, what led you to choosing a medical profession for the mother?
A majority of the moms that I've worked for as a nanny have been medical professionals, so that's where my inspiration came from, and watching how their kids look up to them and how they manage home life and work-life balance on a daily basis. So,
Cool. That's very cool. Awesome. All right, so it is getting really close to having already been 20 minutes for me, so I will just do one more question, and then I will open it to all of you. So prepare. Let's see. If you could write for any other genre, what would it be? And that's for each of you.
I would probably write for murder mystery.
I do write plays also. I do write murder mystery plays for middle school kids, so I have fun with that.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really fun. They love them. When I started directing theater, all there was out there for middle school kids was Betsy Ross and the Flag, and that's nice. That's nice, but they really love murder mysteries better. It's so much more fun. But I just think, I like that. But I also love poetry. I love to dabble. So I have a chapbook coming out. It's called Knocking on a Glass Table. So it's my first poetry book. So I think poetry's brave. Those of you who write poetry, I think it's brave to do that and put your work out there. Very brave. But poetry for me is next.
I do love a good mystery, especially Hallmark. And my husband and I just got done watching some Hallmark mystery movies. I love mystery movies, and I love poetry. I love to dabble in anything and everything, but I would have to say, the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover? Well, I might look all together for you guys, which I am pretty much. I mean, I'm a hot mess here and there, but I actually have lived kind of a traumatic life. So I would probably do more of teens. So anywhere between, up to 25 years old. So, because I went to college too. So anywhere between there. I believe I can really have an impact on them. Also, I dream a lot. I don't know if it's just because I get woken up by my Great Danes to go potty like 5 times a night, but I dream a lot, and I have the most intense dreams. And I remember them, and I'll be telling my family about them, and they're just looking at me like, what? So doing books about my dreams, not necessarily the meaning behind them, but telling the stories, I feel like the teens would definitely be my thing. Yeah.
Awesome, all good answers. I would read each and every one of those. Okay, I love my murder mysteries too, by the way. All right, so questions to the audience, which I will take the microphone to you. Any goers?
Have any of you ever had to deal with writer's block? And how do you handle it? Because I get writer's block all the time.
Oh boy. Whoever wants to
Take it away.
The best way that I deal with writer's block is just to do something besides writing. Stop writing, go out, go hiking, whatever you enjoy, get your mind off of it, and then come back to it later. So.
Okay, I'm going to say the opposite because that's for me. When I have writer's block, I just make myself sit in that chair until it's gone and write something. I think you just have to make, otherwise you're never going to sit in that chair because you have writer's block all day long. So I make myself, I have a goal, like I'm gonna write 10 pages, or school, I'm gonna write my 5-paragraph essay. And then I'll take a break, I'll make tea, I'll go outside, I'll ride my bike, and then I'll come back and edit. I never do the editing. I always do the writing and edit later. But I make myself sit. I don't always want to make myself sit. I make myself sit in the chair.
It's very sad.
I'm disciplined.
Very disappointing. As you know, it's based on the individual. Obviously, we have 3 different children's book authors. We all experience probably similar things, especially you and I feel like we experience similar things just because we're in schools and stuff. Have you ever been in schools?
No.
Not yet? You should probably go. But anywho, so writer's block. And this is me 24/7. This is how God made me. I'm hyper and out there. So, writer's block. I do agree with Allie, trying to find something other than, like, I draw and paint too. So just kind of relaxing the mind. I usually take my Great Danes out for like a walk, so I'll go to like a local park or anything like that, just to get my mind off things, just to kind of take a deep breath. I also write and sing my own lyrics to theme songs for each book I publish. So I know a lot of times when I'm trying to put lyrics together to match the books, I'll just turn random music on and hit shuffle, and I'll just kind of oh, that's cool, and I'll always constantly write things down. So you could be like grocery shopping with your mama, and you walk down, say, what genre do you like to write for? Do you children?
I write fantasy books and make-believe stuff.
Okay, so you're walking down like the Star Wars aisle, and all of a sudden you look over and, Walmart or something, they're selling a new item. And there's that one word on there that stuck out to you. And then all of a sudden that one word can create a whole new word and you're like, oh. So my advice to you is to constantly, I have my phone, I have notes, the app Notes on my phone, so I constantly, if you go through it, you'll see all of my thoughts because they happen here, there, everywhere. Or you can take a notebook with a pencil and just, there you go.
Yeah.
Constantly have it on you because you never know when your brain's gonna be like, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. So write it down, even if it sounds silly or just what, write it down. That's what I do.
Yeah.
There we go. Write it down, girl. Write it down.
I'm old school too. I write things down. I save. And let me just give it one little advice to our young writer there. Don't throw anything away. Keep it.
Okay.
Even if you say, this is really bad, I'm going to just delete. Don't. Save it in a folder. I'm old school, print and say, don't throw it away. Someday you might say, there was one little piece in my writing I should have saved. Save it.
Yes.
Okay, good advice. All right, do you have any advice for her?
Thank you, authors.
Oh, there's a little, yeah. And there's one
So
back
I
there
think
too.
your hand first, so I'm going to go to you.
We'll get to you, don't worry. Okay.
I was wondering what each of your publishing stories was. Like self-published, did you find a publisher and how that worked for you guys?
All right, so short-term story of that. I was fortunate enough, so back on, not writer's block, but as an author in general, like the diversity we have. We all are super amazing authors, but we all have our different inspirations, and they're all very different. So when you become an author, sometimes you have to distinguish what sets you apart from others. So what sets me apart is the theme songs I do with each book. So when I went into going into the publishing company industry, I looked at all the publishing companies. There's so many out there. But I was looking for something that was pro-author, meaning you have the rights to everything. They cannot publish, they can't illustrate or anything until they have the approval from you as the author. So my publishing company as of right now is Fulton Books. They're out of Pennsylvania. They are a pro author. At first, you'll give them a call and they'll be like, oh, you're interested, and then they'll kind of get an idea of what you're looking for and what you're writing about, and then they'll say, okay, well, we'll give you a call back. So you'll get like a call back within 3 to 5 days. And do you want to hold him, sweetheart? He knows you. He saw you one day. So that's first and foremost, you want to set yourself apart, because that's what the publishing companies are going to be looking for, because there's billions of writers out there, you know. So that's what sets me apart. They fell in love with my ideas. So what they do is, well, this in particular, and I'm assuming they're kind of similar, they take it up to their creative board. So they come up with you come up with your ideas, you kind of explain what you're wanting, what you're looking for, and then you go into, they get with their creative board, they get back with you, and they say whether or not you fit for their publishing company or not. So that was the phone call I got, and let's just say I was on cloud 9, because I got blessed because it was the first one with the one I wanted. So say like Random House or something, or my ultimate dream is to have Disney, gain the interest of Disney. So it might take 3 to 5 to 10 books before that happens, but this allows me full access, full copyright, so I can actually lease, and if you're into the money, make more money that way, instead of selling your ideas and books to a publishing company that I receive royalties too, and they're good too. But with this one, I feel like I can trust them. So if the creative board accepts your ideas, you essentially say, okay, well, say you have like 3 different publishing companies that they all agree they want you. You decide, and they will set you up with a publicist, like an assistant. And you will go through him or her during the whole process. With mine, I'm assuming publishing companies are very similar. They have like an author's portal. So you go through the steps. So you go through like the summary of your book, the author bio at the end of the book. I'm downstairs if you kind of want to skim through mine to kind of see, and I'm sure these guys are the same way, any book really. And then they touch base on like just the words of the book, and then you go through an editing process, and then let's see, all these processes take about 3 weeks. For children's books, it can take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to fully get it published, distributed, etc., etc. For adult books, it could literally take up to a year. So yeah, after the editing stages, you go into illustrations. With this publishing company, I have 3 rounds of illustrations. If I don't like it, and then say, oh, you gotta change this, this, and that. It could be as simple as, my next book is Blue Bullet Races a Dirt Bike Rider, and they're all based on true characters. So there's a character in there, you know, he's kind of big and stout and short. Well, the illustrator kind of made him too big and too stout. So I was like, well, you need to like shrink him in a little bit. So it can be the littlest things. So after that's done, then they move into page setup and then all of that. So that's how kind of that flows together. So first you just need to do the research and what you really want as an author. And if you get told no, our creative board, no, we're gonna pass, don't let it discourage you, because I mean, Amazon, and there's probably several other companies, you can self-publish your books. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to put, some money forward, but I believe anyone can make their money back really easily if you truly believe in your work, so.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, boy, we really have a variety of answers up
We
here.
do.
We do. I think this is really good for you guys. I'm loving it too. Like, wow, listen to that. Wow, this is great. Oh my gosh. I think it also depends on what kind of things you want to write. Exactly. I like to call myself an essayist because of the way I write for the paper. So here's how that started. 16 years ago, I saw Mike Martorello, the editor of the Herald, in the grocery store one day, and I said, I'd like to write for you. And he goes, oh, you mean like cover the fires and, the weather? And I go, no, I'm an essayist, so I'd like to write for you. He said, okay, send me something. Send me this is for the writer friend too, send me 750 words. Not 749, not 751, 749 and 750, and let me look at it. And he loved it. I've been with these 4 papers 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Think about it, 16 years, 52 weeks a year. I call them every week. I missed one. I was in China in the hospital. I'm very rammy. I get hurt a lot. So, that was a really fun way to do it, right? My CDs, I know they're kind of outdated. Actually, let me just tell you this. My CDs I'm giving away free today to children if they sing a song to me. You should see the look I just got. What? I'd rather give you money. No, I'm not going to take your money. But I did those myself, and I published all those at Sweetwater because I'm oral traditional. So I have CD with my voice, and then the books that I have are all compilations of stories, and they were published by Indiana Landmarks, which is a group in Indiana that does a lot of things. So there's a lot of places to go. If you have poetry, my first poetry book will be published by Foothills Publishing in New York. So there's lots of places. A good friend of mine just walked the Appalachian Trail with her little dog Zobi, who only weighs 5 pounds. They walked the entire trail. She wrote a book. She's a lovely writer, and she wrote a book, and she did it on Amazon. She put it on Amazon. It has gone to #1 because she is like, buy my book, buy my book. People have, and Zobi signs them with his paw, so they're just adorable. She's gone to #1 on Amazon, so it's not a bad thing to do. They have guidelines, and a lot of my friends have done Amazon, done very well with it. So it's just another idea.
To you again, real quick, when you lease, you said you can lease, but does that mean you can also can you sell them on Amazon while they're selling them?
So with Fulton Books or other publishing companies, so basically you can either do all of this by yourself, or they have teams for you at a low cost, which is amazing. They can handle all that for you. So during the distribution process, my book's on you can Google me and you can find all different kinds of things. My mom even found me in Australia, but anyways, that's besides the point. They automatically have connections with different companies. So I'm on Amazon, Walmart.com, Barnes & Noble, and other miscellaneous things. Where I'm from, Rome City, Shipshewana, Walkerville area, there are some in stores, little boutique type stores, and there's one in Missouri so it's all about getting your name out there. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to do that social media, and you're gonna have to really do stuff. What helped me, and I'm sure it helped you too, is doing book tours with libraries, with schools. I mean, they're just looking for that type of thing. I do a free will donation, so I don't charge when I go into schools. So I'm just there to have fun with the kids. So
Do your publishers reach out to set those up, or do you guys do it yourselves?
publisher companies, you don't have to handle any of that.
For me, I do most of it myself because I do the CDs and
Sure.
that kind of thing. I also want to say for your editing process, there's a lot of high school English teachers, college English teachers who like a little extra money and will edit for you. So they're plentiful. And, I edited Tanya's book on the Appalachian Trail with Zoe. I did her editing. So there's a lot of people around in your neighborhood who teach English, who need a little part-time summer job here or there, and you can just hire them to do some editing, and they will do a fine job, really. And to you, Ellie.
When I started out, similar to you, I wanted to have full control over the publishing process, so I opted to create my own publishing company, Mayor Publishing, and I did self-publishing through Amazon. So
We are so different. It's so amazing.
That makes this fun.
Spell your publisher, M-A-Y-E-R.
M-A-Y-E-R. Yep.
That little gal in the
In fact,
She's about ready to lose it.
She is really.
I'm coming, I promise.
Look at her rolling her eyes up there. She's going, please go on. Come on up here so we can see you.
When you were a child, did you have a favorite author, and do you have one now?
That is lovely.
I love
Perfect question. All right, who wants to take it first?
it. It doesn't matter.
I'll go, I really didn't have a favorite author, but I loved historical fiction growing up, and just reading like Little House on the Big Prairie and those types of books. So.
You should talk to my sister. She's really into World War II.
Yeah, I love historical fiction. When I was about 13, I switched over to that, historical fiction. But as a kid, oh my gosh, I can only say one name, Beverly Cleary. I'm old school, and a lot of the people in the audience. Beverly Cleary, and my favorite book was Ellen Tebbets. Ellen Tebbets was an only child. I was the oldest of 6. And I wanted to be Ellen Tebbets. And I was a little girl when I read it. And every night when I went to bed, I prayed to be an only child. I prayed for it. I did not know that meant they'd all have to, like go away or be adopted out or die or something. Later I figured that out. But Ellen Tebbets, every book of hers, find an author that you love and you'll just fly through all of those books. That was my favorite as a kiddo like you, Beverly Cleary.
Sorry, I'm smiling really big because this is a good question. My all-time favorite is Dr. Seuss. I think it's just because I can keep up with him, if you get what I'm saying. He's kind of out there, but yet he's like very rhythmy. My favorite book is I love reading it to my nieces too. The B book and the ABC book. So it's like big A, little a, what begins with A, and then it goes on and on and on. And then Big Bear, Big Brown Bear, blah, 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 blah. And so they just always stuck out to me. I love all of Dr. Seuss. I don't really have my favorite of Dr. Seuss's, but those two I do like reading because I add in the drama and stuff to it. So yeah, Dr. Seuss and the Chicka Chicka Boo Boo. I gotta add in the Chicka Chicka Boo Boo. And that's it.
Great book.
I gotta do Chicka Chicka now.
Oh, she's good.
Look at all the questions we have. We have right here.
2 at the same time. You, and then I think you'll be my last one.
How many books have you all wrote?
Poppy.
All right.
Started here.
Well, my dear, since my books are based on true stories and events through the eyes of my Great Danes, I will have endless stories, but as of right now, I have, my second book comes out, so I have 18 other written books that need to be published. But unfortunately, like I said, it takes 6 to 8 months, so I've got to, I got some years to release them, so yeah.
And as you've been a really good listener, so you probably know that I'm a storyteller first, so I'll go with that. How many stories have I written? How about that? I would put a cap on it about 500.
Wow.
That doesn't mean they're in books. Doesn't mean they're in books. And people will say, get all your stories in books. Well, as I talked about earlier, they're 2 different art forms. They take different talents and different, I can do both, but it takes different time. You have to do time for each. So I would say I probably have that many stories. That's a lot of stories. That's grown-up stories, little kid stories, that's all across the board stories.
I have 1 written so far, and I'm currently working on 3 more. So.
I'm looking forward to those 3. Okay. Chords wrapped around a little bit. All right. Back in the back.
I actually have 2 questions. Question number 1 is, what age did you all decide to start writing stories?
I love that one.
Go ahead and ask your second question.
Oh, you want to ask both?
Uh-oh, are you guys keeping track?
Who's going to write
And
them?
then,
Allie can go first.
And then the one in the purple shirt, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. You said that you wrote a play for a middle school. Did you also direct that play?
Yes, I did.
Ooh, maybe we'll start with
I
you first.
direct-
then
I
answer
direct.
next.
Yeah. I am a theater director at Trine also, so I'm a theater director. So I write a lot of plays because I can't find enough of them, so I write and direct them. All right, okay, listen to this. You'll love this. Well, when I was a little girl growing up, I was very lucky, and I'll tell you why. There were no cell phones. Okay, I'm old school, right? There were no laptops. There was nothing. There were 6 children, right? They drove me crazy. My sisters rode on my dolls, and my dad I told my dad I needed to have my own room, and he said, well, why don't you move out to the garage? He actually told me that. And I packed a little suitcase. I was pretty little, 10 probably, and I tried to move to the garage. However, we didn't have a garage. It was a really mean trick on my dad. So he took my hand and he opened up a door and he said, come with me. We went up to the attic of the house, and he said, you could live up here. We'll put flooring down. We'll paint it. It's hot in the summer. It's cold in the winter, right? He said, you want to live up here? I said, yes. Bats, spiders, whatever. So I started writing at 10. I was 10. I've kept a journal my whole life. I keep a blog now. I have moved to a blog, but I keep a journal. Keeping a journal is really important. But I wrote a soap opera when I was 10, and I wrote a play and we performed it in the backyard with a curtain. And I think the reason that I could do so much of that when I was a kid, luckily, there was nothing else to do. There were no phones, there were no movies, there was no Netflix. We did have a TV, okay, we did. But all that other stuff was gone, so it freed up my brain. I am very fortunate to have grown up in that time period for me.
I started writing in the 3rd grade. I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. Smith, and she really wanted to encourage everyone in the class to write. So we had 30 minutes a day where we had to sit with a writing prompt, and that's when I wrote my first book. So
Very fun.
Well, for me, I have to think. Okay, so when it comes to, so are you just like writing on paper or actually telling stories, like using your imagination?
Writing on paper.
Writing on paper, okay, good, because girl, at the age of 3, I started playing Barbies and I had a whole imagination world and stories. So I wanted to know how far back. So probably, gosh, Mom, probably 1st, 2nd grade. I mean, I've always loved writing, and I'm going to throw this out there. It's kind of embarrassing, but I don't care. I always wrote nice stories, but it didn't take me until, honestly, college until it kind of, like, clicked. My mom always did my editing, so she'd be like, this sounds great, but this should go up here, and this should go down there, and I might still have some of those emails. So anyways, so I'd probably say like 2nd grade I started writing, but for real was probably middle school, and then it just kind of all flowed out from there.
Awesome, all great answers. So it is already 11:13, so we'll probably have time for maybe one more question, Shannon, do you think? Or so one more if anybody has a last question for any of our authors, and then they will be downstairs. I'm actually gonna take her. She had her hand up first.
How much time do you spend editing before sending it to an editor? Like how much time you spend self-editing before you send it to your editor, if that makes sense?
for me, I spend quite a bit of time editing, probably a few weeks at least, because I second guess myself a lot, and I also want it to be perfect before it even goes out to the editor, so quite a bit of time. So.
And I think it depends, for me, the column that I write. I write it, I edit, and then I print it, because I do it that one on the laptop, and then I print it, and then I edit it 2 more times, but I have to do it like fast. It's due at a certain, 750 words Monday at 12 o'clock every day, every week. So it's like it's a fast editing process. The books I have downstairs were all, they came from oral tradition to print. And the one book took all summer for me to edit, all summer, to take the oral story, to put it to print, and to edit it. Before it went to the editor, then the editor sends it back and says, Lou Ann, I think you should take this out. Do you agree? And usually I say, no, I don't agree. I wrote it. It needs to be in there, right? But they have their own mind about that. So who wants to go next?
Yeah. So, okay, so with my first book, it took me longer. As an author, you kind of want to stick out a little bit. So with mine, I had like with his ears a flapping, jaws a clapping, mouth a drooling, tongue a flopping. I want to keep kind of that kind of attitude with other Great Dane-like characteristics, I guess. So my first book was, I would say, the editing was probably, like I said, I went from like 20 pages, and I'm talking like written out pages, to 25 children book pages, which is what, like 1 to 3 sentences a page. So after you write that first one, I feel like if you write more, they just kind of come more to you, at least in my experience. So like my dirt bike rider one, since mine are based on true stories and events, I kind of already have the story. It's just like I said, it takes probably about 3 months to like condense them. And then once you send them off, like I have my own editing department. So then they do their edits. But like Allie, I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I want to try to have it as perfect as it can before it goes. So I would say 6 months to a year, give or take.
She did have one more. Did you have one more question? Can you do one more short?
We might actually have her ask that downstairs because the panel is actually over for today. We have a panel directly after this one, so, but they will all be downstairs, ready and prepared to answer your questions.
Come see us.
All right, so thank you so much for attending today and having such awesome questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you,
guys.
Robert.
Thanks a lot. It was fun.